here waiting to go live, and I'm so glad that you all made it on this Saturday night. We're coming to you on a Saturday, which we normally don't do, but I've had to move some things around because of the holidays and everybody coming to visit and all that good stuff. So, all things considered, I hope everyone had a safe holiday. I hope everyone still got all 10 fingers. I do, and so yeah, I'm glad you guys are with me on this Saturday. I almost said Friday, but I remembered that I moved it to Saturday because of the holiday that we had this past Wednesday, Thursday, whenever it was. I already forgot. But thank you guys so much for being here with me. And yeah, we'll get to the laughing Buddha later. I got him sitting here. I was just trying to figure out where to position him on the table. There we go. Um, Funny thing is, I set my camera up, and what's so wild, I'll do tests of these before I start, and no matter how many times I test it, when I finally hit go live on you guys and you're here with me, then it's like everything shifts, no matter how many times I try it. So from here on out, I'm just going to go for it, wing it, and we'll just see what happens, which is pretty much always been the story of my life. Playing music all the years that I did, I used to go out to the gigs, and every gig I ever played, I would plug something up wrong every time. And I would start off and I go, wait a minute, something ain't right. I'd have to fix it. And finally, I got to where I said to myself, you know what? If I started off the night and everything was perfect, then I'd be worried. so, so we're good. But it's great to see you guys here. Hope everyone is doing good. I always like to know where you're from. So, hey to you in Canada. I really appreciate you for being here. Hey to everybody watching, tuning in, wherever it is you may be. So we had the 4th of July holiday, and I tried really hard to not be a pessimist, although it is a little bit harder these days to not be after the Supreme Court's decision to grant a president immunity for what they deem official acts. Here's the problem with that, folks. We all know how that will go in Donald Trump's world. In Donald Trump's world, anything he does will be an official act, and anything that Joe Biden or any other president did will be an unofficial act. So it's as though they literally just set the stage for him to have free reigns and to define things the way he wants to. Because if he has immunity, then couldn't he be the one that decides what's official and what's unofficial? And he's already saying that, the Stormy Daniels case should be thrown completely out because he has immunity. And I'm arguing to myself, going, well, how can that be when that happened while you were a candidate for president? So the most depressing part about the whole thing is that when they use the words official acts and unofficial acts, to me, that just says Trump can define it however he wants to. And I'm pretty sure that if he was to be reelected and attempt to lock up Joe Biden, or did lock up Joe Biden, he would say that all the things Biden did was unofficial. And so I don't know what's to come. I don't know what's down the road because I'm not a lawyer and I don't have a law degree at all. I'm no expert on these things. So that's why I spend a whole lot of time, not just because we work together and not just because I'm part of their network, but I do spend a whole lot of time watching Midas Touch, watching Ben Marcellus and Michael Popak and Karen and Michael Cohen and everybody break this stuff down from the legal side so that I have a better understanding of it. So, I think that if we just educate ourselves on these things and look into them, then we may start to feel a little bit better. I don't know, but I tried to have a good holiday anyway, and just try to get a lot of it off my mind. There was times that I didn't feel too patriotic, and I'm sure some of y'all felt that way because hey, we were supposed to be July 4th was supposed to be the day that we celebrated no longer living under the rule of a king. It was supposed to be the day that we celebrated our independence. And I don't know, part of me didn't feel very independent. And so, to the people out there who says that both sides are the same, I'll make this argument till my dying day. If both sides were the same, then Joe Biden would have just walked right out there the minute it happened and said, all right, everybody, arrest Donald Trump. He would have just went right for it if both sides were the same. But he didn't, because he respects the rule of law and because he's going to leave it up to us to vote. And so it was at that point to me when everything just went completely out the window. When I heard that speech that Joe Biden made, I was like, you know what? Right now, more than ever, we have to rally around Joe Biden and we have to vote. And it may be, Joe Biden may not have been your ideal candidate. He may not have been who you wanted to start with. But at this point, it's no longer about him to me. It's about the future of American democracy. And that's why that I think everybody really needs to go out and read Project 2025. I actually went and printed off a whole bunch of it, and I've been reading up on it. And folks, just the language of the introduction is enough to literally, should be enough to scare the crap out of you. I'm going to grab it here real quick if you guys don't mind, because I have printed it off and I've been reading up on it, because there's so much of it that that I just think people needs to pay attention to. Now, this here is just the foreword, and I believe if I read the first paragraph of the foreword, I think a lot of you would probably pause and say, wait a minute, I know where this is going. This is by Kevin Roberts, and he says, 44 years ago, the United States and the conservative movement were in dire straits. Both had been betrayed by the Washington establishment and were uncertain whom to trust. Both were internally splintered and strategically adrift. Worse still, at that moment of acute vulnerability, can't hardly say that word, and division, we found ourselves besieged by adversaries, foreign and domestic. The late 70s were by any measure a historic low for America, and a political coalition dedicated to preserving its unique legacy of human flourishing and freedom. And it just goes on from here, folks, to sound more and more like a Charlie Kirk episode or like a Steve Bannon episode. Right here, this is okay, I'll just read you just a little part of promise number one. Promise number one is to restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and to protect your children. I mean, when I just read that headline, I know where it's going with their rhetoric, and it starts off and says, the next conservative president must get to work pursuing the true priority of politics, the well-being of the American family. Well, guess what? The American family is going to be exactly however they decide to define it. And so if you get deeper in the weeds on this thing and you start reading about it, you're going to find out that they even want to do away with something as simple as a no-fault divorce. Now, how many of you out there have had one of those? I've had two. So according to Project 2025, that will be done away with. And so this is the part that I really wish that MAGA could grasp. I don't think they ever will. I don't mean to be a pessimist, but I don't think they ever will grasp this. But the part they need to understand is right now they're pumping their fist and they're cheering for this because they're for Donald Trump and they're caught up in his story. And they want to own the libs. They want to defeat us. Folks, I get messages every day from people all over the place who are just saying, I can't wait to see your face come November. I can't wait to see the look on your face when Trump goes back into the White House. I can't wait till Trump shuts you down. I can't wait till we never have to hear your voice again. I hear that stuff all the time. And while they may get excited and want to pump their fist about it, the one thing I say to them is, once if Trump is reelected, he no longer needs MAGA. They're of no use to him anymore. So when they start defining the American family the way that he sees fit and the way they see fit, that's going to exclude a whole lot of people they disagree with, ain't it? And it isn't going to matter then where you belong or which political aisle you fall on, because he's going to be able to do things however he wants to. And he's already out there now. He's trying his best to distance himself from Project 2025, saying that he knew nothing about it. And what is so funny about his tweet, or truth, I don't like calling it truth, like he on Truth Social he says truth and retruth. I don't like saying that because it's not the truth. But he started off by saying, that he didn't know anything about Project 2025. He didn't know who was pulling the strings on that one. And then he went on to say, I've heard him say some pretty crazy things. Some of it's pretty ridiculous. I'm like, wait a minute, I thought you didn't know nothing about it. And so I'm going to be doing a video that I'm going to be working on tomorrow, and hopefully it will come out tomorrow, where I'm just going to bring the receipts. I've been collecting all the clips of Trump shaking hands with the founders of the Heritage Foundation and those people out at his event speaking. But he's running scared, folks, and he's running scared because he realizes that, first of all, you got to look at it this way. Roe versus Wade getting overturned, that's automatically going to cause more women to come out and vote. I mean, obviously, women are going to be voting in droves this year. A lot of independents and moderates are going to be voting just over Roe versus Wade being overturned alone. And Project 2025 is not as popular as people makes it out to be. The people on the right, that's all they talk about. And what they don't understand is while it may be something they love to talk about, it's not as popular as they may think it is. With the American people and with independent voters, it sure as hell ain't popular with those of us on the left. And it wouldn't be popular with those of you on the right either if you actually broke down and read it. It sounds good at the start of it. There's a lot of it might make you feel warm and fuzzy inside because you think, wow, they're talking to me. They're saying this about me. They're going to make my family great. But I'm sure that your family has a lot of people with different viewpoints and different ways of life in it, and suddenly you could see your son or your daughter lose rights that you thought they would always have, and they're gone. Just because you pledge allegiance to Donald Trump does not mean that he has any allegiance to you whatsoever. Everyone who has ever came out and spoke out against him, he throws them under the bus. If his own children came out, he would throw them under the bus. So people need to really stop and understand that just because you voted for him and you're excited about voting for him and you want to own the libs, if he gets reelected, he can turn every bit of this against you, and he no longer needs you. And so I think that's something that a whole lot of people needs to really stop and think about. And I'm going to be doing more videos on it. I'm going to be inviting more people here on the channel to talk with me about Project 2025 and all the different parts of it. Because your Mama's Social Security, it's going to be gone, folks. So much is going to be gone. And if Trump's back in there, he'll sign anything they put in front of him because it doesn't affect him in the least. He doesn't care as long as he gets to hold on to power. So we just have to really get motivated and vote, and we have to encourage people to vote. And we have to stop falling for what the mainstream media is trying to shove down our throats. I know you guys ain't falling for it, but you just need to let people know that the mainstream media has their focus in all their own directions right now. And I tuned out of the mainstream media a long time ago. I mean, obviously, I see the clips and I see what they're talking about, and I react to what it is they're talking about. But as far as watching them and having any trust or faith in them whatsoever, I gave up a long time ago. But if I had have been holding on by a shred and was going to stick around for a little while longer, the treatment of Joe Biden since the first debate has definitely been something that I'll never be able to forgive the mainstream media for. I just think it's absolute bullshit that they have zeroed in on this, and they're absolutely picking Joe Biden apart over this. I have never seen a president under such a microscope. I've never seen a president who they just sit and pick at. Guy's 81, 82 years old, and they sit there and they wait for every little pause, every little hesitation, every little stutter, and they pounce on that. He has a bad debate, and like I've said so many times, I'm not going to defend the debate. I'm not going to say the debate was great. It wasn't. He admits it wasn't great, okay? So no one here is saying, boy, he knocked it out of the park. He didn't, and he knows he didn't. We all know he didn't. But they take that one moment, and then they want to say, should he drop out of the race? And every pundit, every talking head is going down that rabbit hole of saying Joe Biden needs to drop out for the good of the party, for the good of the country. The American people are concerned about this. And I'm sitting over here going, we've been concerned ever since Donald Trump tried to overthrow an election that he knew he lost. That's what we've been concerned about. So we want to see him held accountable for that. We don't want him to have immunity. And we saw him be found liable of sexual abuse. To me, that's a damn good reason to never back a candidate. We saw him be found guilty of fraud. We saw him become a convicted felon. And all of those things, they'll come on there, the CNNs of the world and the Foxes of the world, and they'll show you a poll, and they'll say, well, despite Donald Trump being an absolute piece of garbage, he's going up in the polls. And they sit there and focus on that. They'll show you a poll, but they won't show you the unhinged things he says. And then they go out here and they pick apart every little word Joe Biden says and hold it under a microscope and say, oh, he's not there. He's not holding it together. And I'm like, did you guys not see the battery in the shark rant? Where was you guys? Did you fall asleep during that one? Donald Trump has been saying some of the most unhinged stuff. He has said so much unhinged, off-the-wall stuff during this campaign that, folks, to be brutally honest with you, I can't keep up with it all. I remember that he confused Nikki Haley for Nancy Pelosi. He was trying to say Nancy Pelosi, but called her Nikki Haley multiple times at several different events. He has said before that he ran against Barack Obama. I mean, the guy has just been all over the place. His whole ridiculous battery and shark rant and the whole thing about shower heads and water. I mean, what I would love to do is see someone go on CNN, and when Piers Morgan starts saying, hey, what about Biden? He doesn't seem like he's got it together. Someone needs to read a transcript of a Trump rally out loud to Piers Morgan and say, now, Piers, defend this. Now, tell us how that made 1 ounce of sense. Tell us why we shouldn't be concerned with that guy being near a live microphone. It's just ridiculous the way that they have went after Joe Biden and hammered Joe Biden. And it's like now he's out here on this apology tour for having a bad debate. He's out here having to have an apology tour and go around and just continuously face up to that and own up to it. And it's so ridiculous to me. It's like, okay, he owned up to it. He said it was a bad debate, but we're still going to have him come on. And we got to come back again, talk to George Stephanopoulos. Tell us you didn't mean it, Joe. Really? We've never saw George Stephanopoulos sit across from Trump and hammer him that way. They won't. They won't. They just sit there and let him spew his bullshit and his propaganda. They don't say a word. And then Joe Biden has one off night. And it's like, oh my God, oh my God. And they'll try to pass it off like, well, the rest of the country is concerned. This is of interest to the country. Yeah, it's of interest to the country, but Donald Trump has been an interest to us for a long time. We see the threat that he poses to American democracy. We've actually went to the trouble of printing off Project 2025 so we can sit down and read it. And folks, trust me, it's painful to read. It's long and boring. But we've sat and we've went the extra mile to try to figure out what it was we were up against. And we're sitting here saying, hey, there's a train headed for you guys. It's coming right for you. You might want to move out of the way. And they want to get focused on a debate. Which, by the way, if you really go back and watch it, and I know people say, Brando, I never want to see that again. But go back and watch it. Did Joe Biden was it his best performance? No. But he answered the questions. Donald Trump did not answer any of the questions. He ducked, he dodged, he got out of the way. He repeated the same talking points. He said the same fear and the same propaganda over and over and over again. And that's what works with MAGA. All you got to do is just say something enough and they'll think it's true. If you just sit and drive it home and say it enough, they'll believe it's true. And there are so many pundits out there and talking heads that I blame for all of this because they have been buying into this from day one. And I've said from day one that I will take an old man with a stutter any day of the week over an unhinged maniac who says he wants to terminate the Constitution on day one. It's not even close to me. It's not even up for debate, and it's not even about Democrat versus Republican anymore. It's got nothing to do with politics to me. It's about preserving American democracy and trying to save us. But I don't know how that's going to work because, folks, even if something were to happen that, let's say Joe Biden wins, and let's say another Democrat wins in 2028. I mean, we're still kicking the can down the road because of the Supreme Court decision. So if we could see that decision somehow get reversed, that would be great. But as long as that decision is on the books, then somebody out there one day could use it. And that in itself should scare Republicans too. MAGA should be paranoid about that too because Joe Biden's saying, hey, you know what? We're just going to leave this one up to the voters. You guys got to vote. Well, there could be a Democrat that would say something completely different. It's on the books now, they can say it. So I just think that everyone needs to really stop and pause and think long and hard about all of this. And if you're upset with Joe Biden thinking he needs to drop out of the race, folks, that's what they want. They want there to be as much chaos as there can be so that they can create this illusion that the Democrats don't have it together. Here's the funny part. All these pundits that are pushing for Joe Biden to drop out, the minute he drops out, will flip the script and say, oh, well, now the Democratic Party is in disarray. Now the Democratic Party is in chaos. They don't know what to do. And they will criticize and critique whoever's next. So I would love for someone to explain to me the scenario also as to how they would go about even replacing Joe Biden at this point. But even if they did, in like best case scenario for all the people out there that's really wanting that to happen, best case scenario, even if it were to happen, you got to understand that there's politicians out there that haven't been properly vetted yet. Gavin Newsom. I love the guy. I would love to see him as president one day. I really would. But what kind of scandals are in his closet? What's out there lurking that we don't know about him that could suddenly just come right out in our face? And then it's like, well, we should have just stuck to the person who was tried and true. So I understand everybody's concern. And what separates the two sides is that we can have these conversations because they're not allowed to have a conversation like this on the ride. They're not allowed to disagree with Donald Trump. We are allowed to disagree with Joe Biden, and I will tell you all day long that you're allowed to disagree with Joe Biden. I'm not saying that you should pledge allegiance to him, but you should care about American democracy. And so that's why I feel like that more than ever right now, we have to rally around Joe Biden and we have to stay strong because one of our biggest strengths is that we're not like them. That's one of our biggest strengths. We don't follow the leader. We're not totally committed to the leader. That's not who we are. We all have an individual way of thinking. We all have individual thoughts on our side. And so, we're not them, and that's a strength, but it also can be a weakness when you start trying to get everybody together to get behind something, because suddenly someone will be like, well, wait a minute, I don't like that. And the one thing that I would say to anyone on the left, if I had any criticism to give to the left, it's this: stop thinking that there's going to be a perfect candidate. Stop thinking that they're ever going to give you somebody who you're going to agree with on every single issue out there. Folks, it's not natural to agree with someone on every single issue. If you're agreeing with someone on every single thing that they say, if every word that comes out of their mouth, you're bobbing your head in agreement, you're a Trump supporter. Okay? So you're never going to find that perfect candidate. It's not going to happen. You're not going to find the person that you say, oh, this person here agrees with me on every single thing. It's not going to happen, and it's not even natural. It's not even normal to do that. So stop holding whoever, the Democrat is, stop holding them to such a standard that it's like they have to agree with every single thing I say. You have to look at the bigger picture here. And if you have a candidate who is on the side of democracy and on the side of equality and on the side of women's rights, and then you start splitting hairs over something over here that's probably never going to affect you to start with, you can say to yourself, well, I'm going to send a message to the Democratic establishment. I'm going to show them I'm going to stay home. And all you're going to do is throw the election to a Republican president. And that Republican president now is going to have immunity to do whatever they want to do. So everybody just needs to stay focused. And I've had so many people say to me, well, I really wouldn't worry about Trump if I was you. He likes to talk tough. He's all about talking tough and acting tough. But, Brando, I don't think he would ever do any of those things. I don't think you need to worry. I'm like, okay, let's give you that argument just for the sake of the argument. We'll go ahead and say that Donald Trump gets reelected. He serves out 4 years and he goes home. I don't think he'll ever leave, but let's just say for the sake of the argument that he does. Let's say he goes out there, he leaves, and never does any of the things that we fear he does. Still doesn't mean that the next conservative president won't do it. Still doesn't mean that one day a president won't pick it up and do it, because it's on the books now that they can. And again, that should terrify everybody, regardless of which side of the aisle you're on. It's not about Democrat or Republican. So we really have to stop and think about this one before we end up with something. One day, we're going to be sitting here in a country we don't recognize. And then what are we going to do? So, folks, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to hang around a while longer. Don't think I'm leaving, but I did want to take just a short pause and let everybody know that if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button here on the channel. And whenever you leave comments, that definitely helps to boost the algorithm. The more engagement we have on videos, then the better they get in the algorithm and the more they get seen. Hit the little notification bell if you want to. If you want to be dinged maybe 2 to 3 times a day, whenever I post a video, you'll get the notification. Hit that. And also be sure to check out our memberships, because we do have 3 different tiers of memberships. Each one comes with some pretty cool perks. So you guys be sure to check those out. And I want to thank everyone out there, all the members that are in the house tonight. Thank you guys so much. I hope you guys are enjoying it. So yeah, check out a membership. Sign up for a month if you want to. I totally understand $1 is hard to come by these days, so I'm not going to sit here and try to, I don't ever want to turn my show into just a constant ad. But check it out for a month. See if you like it. If you like it, want to hang on to it for a while. If you hang on to it for a while and say, this ain't for me, you don't have to hang on to it. I appreciate y'all's support either way it goes, and I thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your Saturday night to tune in, and wherever you are tuning in, I hope you're doing well. So, and yeah, I was going to say, I saw that comment now from Raven. Yeah, we made a playlist on members only, which was really cool. I made a members only post where I said, hey, here I go getting tongue-tied. Don't y'all give up on me. Don't replace me, okay? Don't replace me with another creator. But we made a playlist where we just threw music at each other. Like, hey, what are you guys listening to? And I told them some of my favorite bands, and then people started coming on, telling me their favorite bands. I went through that comment section, folks, and I went through it with a fine-tooth comb, picking out songs and adding to it. So we have a Brando members-only playlist of our favorite music. And that's something I want to do more of. I think I'm going to do some like protest songs next. I think it would be fun to create one with our favorite protest music, because I did throw out a members only post talking about who's your favorite protest artist, and I listed my top four, and then I saw a lot of good answers in the comment section, and so it's a lot of fun. So check out the members only stuff if you enjoy it. Check it out. Check out that playlist, and you guys be sure, for you members that's on here, drop those comments in that video or in that post about the playlist, and I'll update it soon. That's on the agenda to do really soon, is to update that playlist pretty soon. I think we got like 50 or 60 songs right now, so pretty soon we're going to have hundreds of songs, and then we can just set and hit play one day and hit shuffle and just sit back and enjoy our day. So and I've been turned on to a lot of good stuff. I have. A lot of you really turned me on to some really cool stuff, and so I really appreciate you guys for that. But yeah, man, thank you guys so much for being here. Blue Ridge, Georgia, awesome. Good to see you in here. Glad everybody made it. Hope everyone is doing well. Thank you so much. My music is available. It's on Spotify, iTunes, and all the music apps under Tennessee Brando. It's also on a website called Bandcamp, like that one time at Bandcamp. Bandcamp.com, it's on there under Tennessee Brando. And then if you want to find the music that I was making before I started writing all the political satirical tunes, you can look up Brandon Fulson. That's Brandon, Fulson. It's pretty much on all the music apps. I think I got 7 or 8 albums of my own material out there floating around in the universe. And I just wrote, my songs back then were just autobiographical tunes. They were songs that I either lived, directly or indirectly. So if you guys want to check that out, you can do that too. I may end up making a playlist of some of my old tunes and put them on members only for you guys so you can find them easier. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys so much for being here. Thanks to Lynn Myers. I just saw that you gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much for doing that. If anyone else has done that, I appreciate that as well. Sometimes the comments gets to going by so fast, folks, that I can't keep up with them all. And so I really appreciate you guys for being here. But I'll tell you what, we'll play some music since we're talking about music. We'll go ahead and play a song or two. And we included John Coinman. I'm sure that was that's one of the ones that I hadn't really listened to. I'd heard the name. I don't remember who commented and left that suggestion, but I added it on there. So yeah, we'll play you a song or two, and I hope you guys are doing well. I wrote this tune here with Jessica Denson, and it's doing really good. I think we closed in on around 200,000 views on Twitter, and then she put the extended version on her YouTube channel. If you haven't had a chance to, go check out Lights On with Jessica Denson. She's one of my favorites. She did an absolute stellar show last night. It was her first show flying solo, and we had talked before about it, and she was like, I'm nervous being solo. I prefer to have a guest. And I was like, just do it. Just do it by yourself. It'll be good, because it's very liberating. And something about, don't get me wrong, I love having guests, and I definitely plan on having more guests here in the future. I'm going to be scheduling some people to come on, and I'm really excited about that. But there's something very liberating about just sitting here and talking, and then developing a community of people that you see, and you go, hey, yeah, you're a regular. I really like that. There's something very freeing about it. So if you haven't already, go check out Lights On with Jessica Denson and check out the extended version of this tune. I'll just play y'all the radio edit for now, because we ended up writing more verses than we needed. But when Eric Swalwell went off on his whole big rant about you might be in a cult, Jessica reached out and was like, I think you may have a song here. And I said, why don't we write it together? And so here it is. It's called You Might Be in a Cult. Now if you think that the president set up his own son to hide the crimes you think his family done, all to justify the charges against Trump, you think everything's rigged and it's all made up, I'm sorry to say, you might be in a cult. And if you go to a rally and you're fainting out in the heat, and your guy starts to cry, hey now what about me? And then he spits right out without missing a beat. I don't care about you, I just want your vote. I'm starting to think you might be in a cult. Come on, he's a felon, now don't you know? There's 37 countries where he can't go. Mexico, Macau, and South Korea, Turkey, Taiwan, and Tanzania. Now you want to make this man your nominee. When we see you back the blue till they come for your guy. You want to defund the DOJ and the FBI. Then you say you're for the rule of law. We know that's a lie. You got the Constitution all twisted up, and it sure looks like you might be in a cult. He spurs your rage, and he fuels your hate. And you think somehow he's gonna make America great. Well, you're no patriot, you're just lining up for the Kool-Aid. I think it's high time you all wake up. I'm sorry, my friend. Well, you're damn sure in a cult. All right, thank you all so much, and welcome, Michael, to the members only. Thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate you for being here, and appreciate all of you for tuning in tonight. They do. They even have their own hats. But you know, the thing about that song is that we will always be able to write extended versions, and we will be able to just keep writing that. We could have like the sequel, because it'll go on. There will be so much happening. It'll always be going on. But you know, I'll shift gears here, and I'll go back and play you a song that I wrote a long time ago. Well, not a long time ago, but last year I wrote this one. But you know, that song starts off talking about the ones out there that believes that Joe Biden would go out of his way to set up Hunter just to prove a point. It's so ridiculous, folks, the lengths that these people will go to with their conspiracy theories. It's just so crazy to me that was one of those things that either way you slice it, they would have had a problem with it. And so Hunter Biden gets found guilty, and you think they would say, "Oh, yay!" You know, you think they would jump up and down, but instead it's like, no. That was just Biden crucifying his own kid just to prove a point. It's just to try to create the illusion that the system isn't rigged. It's so crazy the lengths they will go to just keep, you know, justifying themselves. It's absolutely crazy. And the funniest part about that whole thing to me is I can't count the times that I had Second Amendment arguments, gun control arguments with these gun enthusiasts that loves to quote Charlton Heston. You know, they love to talk about "you'll get it when you pry from my cold dead hands" and all that bullshit. And I've never met one yet in that. I'm talking about in extreme MAGA land. I've talked to reasonable people about this, but I'm just talking about the extreme MAGAs here. I've never met one yet that they don't think there should be any gun control at all. I mean, it's like, no, that's an infringement on my rights. A background check is an infringement on my rights. Having to fill out this form is an infringement on my rights. Answering those questions is an infringement on my rights. And then Hunter Biden answers a question the wrong way that every redneck, Tom, Dick, and Harry in my part of the world has answered exactly the same way. And suddenly he's the bad guy. He's the bad guy in this, and it's okay if his rights are infringed upon. Perfectly okay. If they drug tested every redneck in Tennessee that owned a gun at the time that he tried to buy one, they'd never sell another one. And it's just so ridiculous. But they have always been out there. Hunter Biden has always been the boogeyman. He's always been one of their boogeymen that they absolutely love to sit and throw stones at. And so I wrote this song back when Marjorie Taylor Greene pulled out the nude photos that they got off his laptop and showed them off. I was like, you know, what a tasteless, despicable thing to do. You know, you can prove your point or make your point however you want to, but good Lord, like to go to that extreme, I just thought was so tasteless. And I've always said that, I started writing these satirical tunes just to try to provide a little bit of comic relief. And I've also said that satire is the use of humor, irony, and exaggeration to expose the stupidity of someone's beliefs. And so to me, that's what this song is. It was really put there to just show the stupidity of Marjorie Taylor Greene and Don Jr. and Comer and all the right wingers, Jim Jordan, just all of them and their hypocrisy. So I wrote this tune back last year. It's on Shots of Truth Volume 2, which you can find on Bandcamp. Now, all of my albums are on most of the apps except Shots of Truth Volume 2. It's exclusively on Bandcamp, so that's where you got to go to find this tune here. But I call this one a hard on for Hunter. Marjorie's got a hard on for Hunter. She talks about him all the time. Shows off his dick pics to Congress. They drive her out of her mind. She tries like hell to suppress it. She tries like hell to project. She's got a hard on for Hunter. At least that's what we suspect. Junior's got a hard on for Hunter. Always hands him the blame for all of his dirty dealings and the time he misplaced his cocaine. He thinks that we all can't see it, that little twinkle he gets in his eye. Junior's got a hard on for Hunter. I don't think we have to ask why. With all the world's problems, get back on our feet, breaking our backs just to make ends meet. They just can't help it. They just can't stop demanding to see Hunter's laptop. Yeah, the right wing has a hard on for Hunter. He's there to divide and distract. Truth won't get in the way of their stories, and they won't be bothered with facts. They all wish that they could have partied like he did back in his day. They got a hard on for Hunter, and the truth is they just couldn't hang. Yeah, the truth is they just couldn't hang. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I thought somebody said that Coach D was in the house, so shout out to Coach D, one of my all-time favorites. Glad y'all are here, and a special shout out to Coach D and to everyone out there who is tuning in on this Saturday. Again, I hope you guys are doing great and having a good one. So, and to Tracel and George, welcome to Brando fans. I really appreciate it. I was talking earlier before you guys, some of y'all may just be tuning in, was talking about the memberships that I have here on the channel. We have a lot of fun with that. So if you haven't already, be sure to go check those out. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and that just keeps boosting us in the algorithm. So, I really appreciate it. And, the thing about, I'm glad to see that, Coach D passed through. One of the things that me and him have talked a lot about is how that whenever these things happen and the different, contributors or content creators, influencers, whatever word you want to use, when people start talking about it, it's always interesting how that I can sit down and I can talk about something like Hunter Biden's verdict or whatever, and I will say something, and I'll make my video and put it out there, and then I'll see that Coach D's made one about it. And then I'll go listen to his video, and he doesn't say anything that I said. He's got a completely different take on it. And then I'm like, wow, I never thought of that. That's a good way of looking at it. Then you go to the next one and the next one. Now, that's why I've said so many times that I don't feel like that, when someone says I'm independent or I'm moderate or I'm on the fence, whatever, it's like you can be on the left and have a different frame of mind. Like I said earlier, you can be on the left and disagree, and we can have heated disagreements. Those are not allowed in Trump's world. You're not allowed to question the leader. On this side of the fence, there's different points of view, and I'll sit back and I'll listen to Coach D, and I'll listen to Texas Paul, and I'll listen to Ben Mycelis, and I'll listen to Luke Beasley, David Packman. There's so many people out there. Bo of the Fifth Column, I'll listen to them, and then Adam Mockler. They'll all have a completely different point. They'll all say something that I didn't think of, and then I'm intrigued. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate this pro-democracy community. We may not always agree, and I don't always agree with everything that I've ever heard every one of them say, and that's the whole point. So I feel like that you can be on the left side of the aisle, and you can still have a mindset that you're not in a cult, and you're not just praising the leader at all times. That's how I feel. And as far as like the whole both sides argument, I'm just going to call bullshit on that so many times. I really am. And sometimes to me, when someone takes a stance like that about, well, I see the fault of both sides, or you can do that on certain issues. You can do that on certain things. But when you're doing that on equality and you're doing that on human rights and women's rights, what you're saying is, okay, I see the argument of should women have control over their own bodies, but I see both sides to that. I can see it both ways. To me, it's just a cop out answer, So, and I don't think there's two sides to that. I don't see it that way. I know people would argue me all day. That's one of the things I've had more people argue with me about than anything. Oh, there is, Brando. There is two sides to every story. It is a both sides argument. There's always two or three or four sides. Not when it comes to equality, not when it comes to human rights. There's just not. You can't sit here and say to me that you see both sides of slavery. Slavery's wrong. You don't get to say that you see both sides of it, because when you do, I'm kind of listening to that going, well, you mean that's not a deal breaker for you? That's not a deal breaker? That's a little bit weird to me. So I've never been a fan of the whole both sides argument. But also I want to thank Traceland. Hope I'm saying that right. She just gifted 5 more Tennessee Brando memberships. That's so awesome. I really appreciate you doing that, and thanks to everybody who has came along. But yeah, if you want to, if we're going to sit here and say, okay, there's two sides to who's going to pay for the health care, or there's two sides as to why we should or shouldn't do something, that's one thing. But when you start saying there's two sides to women's rights, or two sides to equal rights, I don't, or you see both sides of that. So what you're saying to me is you see black people not having the right to vote. Is that what you're saying? It just makes no sense to me when someone takes that type of stance. It always feels like they're just trying to cop out, and then be able to later say, see there, I told you they both suck. Oh, wow. Thanks, Steve Ward, I think I caught that. These comments are going by really quick. So, oh, wow. Steve just gifted 10 new Tennessee Brando. Man, thank you so much for that, Steve. I really appreciate it. Now I'm going to have to get on it and start pumping out even more members on the content. We've got to live up to the hype now, which is inspiring to me, and I appreciate you guys for inspiring me to do so. So, yeah, and I'm kind of getting a little distracted here by the comments now, but I'm enjoying it. I like Brian Tyler Cohen, too. I always like his takes on things. I've shared a lot of his tweets and clips and videos before and shouted him out. He's another one that I really like. And so we just sit back and learn from one another. I think that's the whole thing. So yeah, well, welcome to the new members, and thanks to everyone out there tonight. Man, it's been a good night for people gifting memberships, and I really appreciate you guys for doing that so much. So again, I know that times are kind of depressing. I know that sometimes we feel like all hope is lost, and that's why from time to time, folks, I just have to write a funny song to make us laugh. And but when the whole Jasmine Crockett, Marjorie Taylor Greene thing happened, and Jasmine fired back on Marjorie with the bleach blonde, bad built, butch body line, I did think the first time I heard her say, I was like, God, there's a song in this somewhere, but I hadn't wrote it yet. And then my good friend Kim one morning just sent me a text and was like, hey, check out these parodies I found. And there people was going through writing parodies of different songs using that B6 quote. And before I even listened to one, I went, nope, I'm not listening to any of those. I'm just going to write my own real quick. And I sat down and wrote this song in just a few minutes. And it blew up and became the most viewed song I've ever written. It's got over 7 million on Twitter, had like 3 million on TikTok, and several 100,000 on the other apps. So it's probably closing in on like 11 million views. And, I feel like that the only way you stand up to a bully is give it back to him. So I don't feel no sympathy for Marjorie Taylor Greene for writing this and us all having a laugh at her expense. And I'll tell you why I will never feel bad for laughing at Marjorie Taylor Greene's expense, because she walked around behind kids who had survived a school shooting, just taunting the hell out of them. Go look that up if you haven't saw it already. Go out of your way to find that. And then you'll see why Brando doesn't care if we have a little fun at her expense. All right. Thank you, Hate Bit Poet. 5 more memberships. That's so awesome. I really appreciate it. She's a bleach blonde, bad Bill Butch body, swinging for the fences, good God Almighty. A heat-seeking missile, too scared to debate, cries like a baby when she don't get her way. Well, she can dish it out, but she sure can't take it. Her whole damn life, she just fakes it to make it. Nobody cares what she has to say, and new eyelashes wouldn't help her anyway. The bleach blonde, bad Bill Butch body, swinging for the fences, good God Almighty. A heat-seeking missile, too scared to debate, cries like a baby when she don't get her way. Yeah, she's out there pushing that propaganda. Can't get it done, just blame it on Brandon. Loves to talk tough, throw around her weight. Oh, baby girl, don't even play, 'cause you're a bleach blonde, bad Bill Butch body, swinging for the fences, good God Almighty. A heat-seeking missile, too scared to debate, cries like a baby when she don't get her way. Yeah, she cries like a baby when she don't get her way. All right, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Hope everyone is doing great on this Saturday. Hope everyone had a good holiday. And yeah, these are always so much fun to do. I could definitely see Jasmine Crockett being a contender one day. I think she's one of the biggest stars we got in the Democratic Party. And that kind of voice and that kind of fire and that kind of, in your face is what we need more of. I love Michelle Obama. I'm never going to diss Michelle Obama ever. I love her. I think she's one of the greatest first ladies we ever had. But her quote about, when they go low, we go high. I understand where she's coming from. And in a perfect world, I wish it was that way. I wish that we could do that. But they've proved time and time again that they have no bottom. They've proved time and time again there's no low they won't go to. When you got somebody out there harassing children who survived a school shooting, when you got people like Alex Jones out there defaming, the parents of kids that lost their lives. I had an idiot in the troll section actually say to me, well, I don't see how he actually defamed anybody. He called their parents crisis actors. He sicked his followers on them to go out here and, and harass them. And it's just bullshit. It's absolute insanity to me that these people can't understand. It's like, again, I've had people say, yeah, I can't wait till Trump gets reelected. He's going to shut you down. I can't wait till he does. And I'm like, well, okay, if that happens, when did I ever get on here and defame somebody? When did I ever go here and sick you guys on anybody? When did I ever go to the Capitol and try to overturn an election that we all knew we lost? When did that happen? When did we sit and break out windows and carry a Confederate flag around in the Capitol building and put our feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk? I'm so sick of the gaslighting and the projection that comes from that side. It is so damn annoying. Everything that comes from that side, because they go out there, they break the law deliberately right in front of our face, and then they try to yell victim and try to say, oh, we're hostages, we're patriots. It's such bullshit. It is such flaming bullshit that I can't even stand it. But yeah, we'll stick around here for a few more minutes. I'll probably play y'all a few more songs, take a few more questions. But yeah, thank you guys so much for spending your Saturday evening with me. And if you just rolled in, this is the Tennessee Brando show. And we always just sit here and have a good time and play songs. And I'm always writing new ones. There's always plenty to write about. There's never a dull news day, I'll tell you that. The biggest challenge for me is just finding out what angle to talk about everything next, because there's just so much happening. And a lot of times Donald Trump is just dominating the news cycle so hard that you got to go in there and break down all the different things um, that he's saying and doing. And so I may make a video on one side of it, and then, like I said earlier, I may watch a Coach D video that will make me think about another side of it, and then here I go making another one. So that's how it goes. But thank you, Debbie, for the tip. I appreciate you. I always remember, to everybody that's hit the tip jar tonight, I really appreciate you. You don't have to do that for the ones that do. It's greatly appreciated. So thank you guys so much for being here. Sometimes the comment sections are rolling by so fast I have a hard time catching up with it. But yeah, it's always fun to be here with you guys. We got about 10 minutes to go, so I'll spend some time taking questions. Yeah, I've touched on Ted Cruz before. It's been a while. He's not done anything too off the wall here lately. He's kind of been quiet for a little bit. I've not heard as much from him, or I'm sure he's not being quiet, but I've not heard much of. Well, I don't know if he was asking if I've made videos or songs. I don't have a Ted Cruz song yet. You may be onto something there. I don't have a Ted Cruz song yet, but just give me a minute. He'll make a mistake, and we'll be all over it. So yeah. Well, I would love to see Trump interviewed too if the interviewer would hold him to account. But that's one of those things I talked about in the last live. That's such a double-edged sword, because if you set Trump down in front of somebody who would really hammer him and go at it, they're just going to cry the game is rigged. Even if Trump got completely tongue-tied, stuttered, and shit his pants, they would not say that he should withdraw from the race because of that. They would say that the interviewer or the moderator was mean. So that's the trouble with that. Well, you can find Project 2025 online. I simply just Googled it till I found where I could download I started printing it off. I think the book is called Mandate for Leadership, so you can find it that way. It's pretty easy to find, but it's 900 pages, and like I said, it's pretty long and it's pretty drawn out. But it's something that I think we all need to be keeping our eye on. I haven't wrote a song about Matt Gaetz yet either, and I can't believe that, because he's gave us plenty of material. I don't know what it is about Matt Gaetz. He's just got one of those faces I can't stand. Like, I think even if he was on our side of the aisle, I would have a hard time listening to him, just because he just has a face that just. I don't know if you guys are that way with certain actors, but there's certain movies I can't watch because the actor's face annoys me. So Matt Gaetz is definitely one of those people for me. It does. It's just kind of like I don't know. I don't want to insult Beavis and Butthead, but he's kind of got that vibe. And yeah. Well, see, that's the thing with writing a song about Matt Gaetz is kind of tricky, because there's just so much crap about him that you'd have to be careful how you worded it, or you would have a completely inappropriate tune. So yeah, he's just such a train wreck, man. But yeah. Matt Gaetz is one of those that I just can't stand him. I don't know. And Tim Burchett here in Tennessee is not far behind him. When they were doing the whole thing where they was trying to like stall Joe Biden on his way into the State of the Union, and they were laughing about it the next day, that's definitely when I realized that if you put Gaetz and Burchett next to each other, they do have a Beavis and Butthead vibe sitting beside each other. It's just so ridiculous. But I can see the Grinch. I can see the Grinch in there for sure. But yeah, these are always so much fun to do. True. Yeah. You write a song about Matt Gaetz, you'll never be able to play it on YouTube. That's what I'm saying. It's like how do you write that you don't get a violation? Which that says it all, don't it? I mean, he's still got a job though. I mean, Howard Dean screamed at a rally. I said this in a video earlier because I was talking about that guy, Mark Robinson, the lieutenant governor from North Carolina. I think he's running for governor too. Just comes right out and starts saying that, people needs to be killed. And that's what we do when we, run up against evil. We just go out there and do that. And he's sitting there saying that, and I'm going, how's he still around? Like, how's he still got a job after saying something like that? Because Dan Quayle told a kid to put an E on the end of potato, and that was the end of him. Howard Dean screamed at a rally, that was the end of him. And yet these people can go out here and do all these things, and they'll always say, well, it's just alleged. But the funny part is, it's only alleged when it comes to them. It's matter of fact when it's a cold hard fact when it's said about us, and they don't even have to have any proof at all. They don't have to have any proof or any evidence at all. I mean, look how many times James Comer and Jim Jordan, guys like that, have sit there and made a total fool of themselves when they start talking about impeaching Biden, and we're going, where's the evidence? Well, it's coming. I promise it's coming. I'm like, God, how do these people actually have a job? There's been people, I've worked alongside people that got fired for way less. I mean, way less, I worked at a place one time, a guy got fired just for going to the bathroom too many times. It's like, which the guy did. I mean, he every time that, like what it was, in all fairness, every time that work got harder, he kind of went to the bathroom for about 40 minutes. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he didn't deserve it, but I'm just saying you got a guy like that. And here's the thing. MAGA would not get away with their act. Donald Trump included, Matt Gaetz, any of them. Any of these people we've talked about tonight, none of them would get by with the way they carry themselves in a workplace. They wouldn't make it. They would be fired if they worked at a McDonald's. They'd be fired the next day. They wouldn't make it. So, but yet somehow they have a position of power, and they're the ones making decisions for the rest of us. And it's just pretty damn sickening. Yeah, I can so see the throwing up emojis. I mean, it makes perfect sense. It's enough to make you want to throw up. This here is a great, great question. It's one that I've thought about a lot. This is Nicholas here. How do we bring Americans together after Trump? Nicholas, I wished I had a straight answer for you. I really do. I think it's going to be one of those things that's going to take a long time to heal from. I think the effects of Donald Trump's presidency is going to be felt long after he's gone. And I think one thing we're going to see after he's out of the political arena, I think we're going to see people try to imitate it for a while. People try to hold on to it for a while. But I think there has to come a point where the reasonable people in the middle and the reasonable people out there with a voice of reason inside them that are just so sick of his cruelty, so sick of his racism and his homophobia and his you could name drop every one of them and it fits with Trump. Eventually, people's got to get tired of that cruel behavior. I did a video where I played a clip where he was talking about it's all about the ratings. You can be as cruel and mean and as evil as you want to be. It's all about the ratings. Well, eventually, I think that people will get tired of that cruelty. And once people gets tired of that cruelty and realizes that cruelty had no value to their life, then maybe we can start working to bring us all together. I hope we can. I don't necessarily know how we would go about it. I think the main thing would be whenever someone steps off of the MAGA ship and whenever they come to their senses and step away from it, I think we should just welcome them with open arms. Instead of, I think it would be, I think it will work against us to continue to run them down and poke fun at them. There's been so many people that we've covered on the channel. Trying to think of the guy's name. Ben Mycelis interviewed him. It was a great interview. The guy was a former DeSantis supporter. Or actually, he's still a DeSantis supporter, but he used to be a big-time Trump supporter, and he just couldn't get behind it anymore. There are people starting to come off that sinking ship, and I think as they do, we don't need to be hard on them. We just need to, try to always explain why that we said the things we said and why that we pointed out the things we pointed out. And I think a lot of them start to see through it. So hopefully as more of them come around to seeing through it, then maybe we'll be able to come together and heal. I sure hope we can. But yeah, it's going to definitely take a while. Yeah, thank you, James, for that. I really appreciate it. But I really appreciate you guys for being here with me, and we'll just keep voting on the side of democracy and on the side of freedom because we have to at this point. We can't take our eye off the ball. I say that all the time. I realize that a lot of times in my videos I'm getting repetitive, but I would much rather be sitting here repeating these talking points over and over. Thank you for that, Peter. I really appreciate it. I would rather be sitting here repeating these talking points as to be sitting on a bar stool repeating the same cover songs I played for 20 years. The world can live without hearing me saying "Take It Easy" by the Eagles again. They'll be okay. It's like we have to keep talking and speaking truth to power. And so I'm glad to be here with you guys. I'll take one more question before I go. Thank you. I'll tell the story behind the Buddha statue. Maybe that's how we'll close it out tonight. We'll see if I got another question before we go. We'll try to grab one more. And again, thank you guys so much for being here. But yeah, we right now, folks. We have a good man in the Oval Office, and we really need to have to keep we have to keep that in the front of our mind that Joe Biden is a decent man, and we have to remember that, and we have to stand by him right now more than ever. He's not turned his backs on us. Let's not turn our backs on him. I think we have to continue to continue to support him and not buy into this media bullshit that they're trying to spread, because I really believe they're just doing it for ratings, folks. They do. It's easy. They can point to Donald Trump. They can say Trump's up in the polls. Trump is surging. They can do things like that, and then they can say that Joe Biden is stuttering, and they know that it's going to appeal to people. They know people will buy into it. But yeah, we'll definitely be coming up with more protest songs, writing more protest songs, and we'll be coming up with a members-only protest list for sure. But I'll tell you what, I'll close it out with this song. Someone asked me about the Buddha statue, so I'll play you one more tune, and if I catch a question before it's over, we'll do that. But this Buddha statue was gave to me by a really good friend of mine. I was over at their house, and we were sitting out around this little campfire, just partaking in some really good stuff. Herbs, not no chemicals. But anyway, we sat around the campfire and had a good night. It got kind of a little bit cold. Went inside. When we did, this Buddha was sitting on her dresser, and I was in a really good place. I really was. And so I picked him up, started looking at him, and he just had this big smile on his face. I'm like, man, he is happy. And I just started looking at him laughing. The more I looked at him, the funnier it got to me for some reason. And my friend said, why are you laughing? And I said, because I said, he looks happy. She said, well, he is happy. I said, I've never seen Jesus smile like that. I said, every picture I've ever seen of Jesus, he's always been frowning. He's always, he's always kind of looked very stoic, or like, a lot of times he's strung up, so he can't look too great. No, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it's just like, Jesus never looks like that. He's never smiling. And I just made the comment to her. I said, maybe I've been talking to the wrong guy. Well, the next day I started to leave, and she handed me the statue, which she had had for a long time, by the way. And I can't remember which country she brought this back from. I'll have to ask her sometime. But she said to me, I want you to take this with you because I think you need it more than I do. She said, I've never seen you laugh that hard. I've never seen you that happy. And she said, so I think you need to take him with you, and you need him more than me. Well, it turns out she was right, because when I got at home, it kind of made me want to dive back in and start studying Buddhism again. I started listening to a podcast called Secular Buddhism with Noah Rasheta, and just digging more and more back into it. And as I did, I realized, this is kind of how I've seen the world the entire time. And so I wrote this tune about that very night called The Laughing Buddha. Buddha sat on her dresser with a Jimmy Carter smile. She said to rub his belly for good luck. You're going to need it for a while. Come to think, when I've seen Buddha, he's got a glassy-eyed grin. Unlike the guy from my raising, he was always dying for sin. Jesus sat on the mantle. He had such a stoic face. He looked miserable above the altar and strung out at Grandma's place. And even knocking on my door, he had a sad look in his eye. Kinda got me thinking maybe I've been talking to the wrong guy. Well, I've done unto others, and they nearly done me in. I turned the other cheek, and they tried to cave it in. And I've laid down my life for people who would not go a mile for me. So Jesus, if you're listening, I hope somehow you see. I can't carry the cross no longer. I can't live with nail-scarred hands. I can't die for people who don't care to understand. And it is not my place to bear the sword in vain. I gotta be the laughing Buddha before I go insane. I'm no savior, I'm no healer, I don't have the answers yet. I'm no preacher, I'm no teacher, I'm just a poet with a pen. And I ain't gonna let them string me up just to serve as their own fate. So when they ask you how they lost control, tell them I'm awake. And I've done unto others what they nearly done me in. I've turned the other cheek and they tried to cave it in. I laid down my life for people who would not go a mile for me. So Jesus, if you're listening, I hope somehow you see. I can't carry the cross no longer, I can't live with nail-scarred hands. And I can't die for people who won't try to understand. And it is not my place to bear the sword in vain. I gotta be the laughing Buddha before I go insane. I better be the laughing Buddha or I just might go insane. All right, guys, I really appreciate it. Thank y'all so much for being with me here on this Saturday night. I hope everyone has had a good time. I almost said y'all drive home safely because that's what I used to say when I was playing out in the dives. It was always like, y'all got drive home safely. If anybody was listening to this while you're traveling, drive home safely. If you got somewhere to go, drive home safely. But thank you guys so much for being here. It's always a blast. Next week's going to be a little bit tricky for me because I'm going to be going out of town at some point. So we may be doing the next live stream. I'm thinking about doing it on next Thursday. So be sure to just stay tuned here on YouTube and social media. I'll let you guys know for sure when it's going to be. But at the moment, it's looking like it's going to be Thursday because they're going to be going somewhere for the weekend. So to get away from the madness for a little while. But yeah, you guys be sure to tune into that one. That'll be a good one. Maybe I will find a guest between now and Thursday and have them on the show. That'd be great if we could do that. And we'll just keep doing what it is that we do. And we can always, for those of you that tuned in a little bit later in the show, you can always go back and watch the replay, share them, pass them around, let people know that this is how we spend our evenings sometime. And I'll be honest with you, it's so hard for me to stop right dead on the hour because I guess it's part of the musician in me is always kind of waiting for the encore. It's like you play your set, you walk off, you come back. I think that's why that I'll get there. I'm like, damn, hold on. Before we go, let's have an encore. So that's kind of what that was. We went into overtime just a little bit, but I appreciate you so much for being here. So until next time, this has been the Tennessee Brando Show. I'm Tennessee Brando. You guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next week.